What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into CV axles for our Toyota 4Runners, Tacomas, and FJ Cruisers. We'll be tearing apart our OEM Toyota CV axle, and we're going to compare it to a cheap Rock Auto replacement. We'll go through step by step how to replace the CV axles on our 5th generation 4Runner, which will be very similar, if not identical, to the Tacoma FJ Cruiser. We'll also go over how to assess and diagnose a bad CV axle. Hopefully this video will give you all the information you need to save you some money and some hassle, so stay tuned. So what is a CV axle? CV stands for constant velocity. These axles allow for smooth rotation while transferring power from our drivetrain to our wheels, even while our suspension moves up and down and our wheels turn from side to side. I think the best way to explain how a CV works is to actually just tear it apart. So let's jump right into the fun stuff. Let's tear apart our OEM CV axle. We'll compare it to a cheap Rock Auto replacement. We'll go over all the different components, how it works, and how to diagnose a bad CV axle. All right, so we have our cheap Rock Auto axle here. This is our stock Toyota CV axle. A lot of people do report, blowing these up on the trail. They'll put one of these in because they have them as a spare. 2 minutes later, these will explode. They're not known for being good quality. Let's try to see if we can see why they're poor quality. Let's do some measurements here. We'll see flex, that sort of thing. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's open this up. All right, so first glance here, the boot is definitely different. This one has more ribs on it, which I'm sure would allow for more flex, less stress on the boot. So the boot is gonna last longer, probably here on the stock axle. See, this one feels pretty, kind of just, I don't know, soft, not as high quality. So we have 1, 2, 3. On this one, we kind of have a half rib. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 if you count this one. So definitely a higher quality boot. Now the thickness here, we'll measure both of these. This one here is about 1.15, 1.22. The bands here definitely look lower quality than these bands. The housing here is a lot thicker, but let's see. 4.16. This one's much smaller. Wow. So 3.8, 3.4. Okay, so those are the same size. All right, let's break these open now. Let's see what the internals look like. Well, I can tell you right now, these band clamps on the OEM are a lot stronger than the aftermarket. Wow, there is not a lot of grease in this aftermarket joint. I just took this boot off and there's just like exposed metal and some grease. The stock axle was just completely packed full of grease, well lubricated. This one is not that well lubricated. All right, guys, so I got these all cleaned up now. I got them side by side. This is our aftermarket, this is our OEM. One of the things I noticed right away is that our OEM actually has more range of motion here. So you can definitely get more flex compared to the aftermarket axle. So, all right, let's measure these ball bearings. 0.85 for OEM. Aftermarket, 0.8. Yeah, okay, so 0.85, 0.8, so definitely smaller bearings here. Okay, so at the end of the tripod joint here, this is the metal. So 0.78, 0.75. So a little bit thicker there on the OEM. Okay, so 0.2 and basically the same 0.19. So I think those are identical. All right, guys, so OEM versus aftermarket. OEM definitely has a larger Shepa joint. It's just more robust, larger bearings, looks like higher quality steel. It was definitely better lubricated. Coming down to this tripod joint at the bottom, the metal down here is a little bit thicker on the OEM axle versus the aftermarket. The CV boots on the OEM was definitely a little bit thicker. Looked like higher quality. It did have more ribs in it too for flex, especially down at that tripod joint at the bottom. The thickness in the middle, not quite as thick as aftermarket. Aftermarket's actually a little bit thicker here, but I suspect that this is a higher quality steel. These were exactly the same size, but again, the steel could be different quality. I would imagine that OEM is higher quality. All right, let's go over the CV axle, how to diagnose a bad CV axle, and just the different components here. All right, guys, so here we have our CV axle. So we have our inner CV joint and our outer CV joint. Our inner CV joint will be connected to our differential. This side will be connected to our wheel or our hub. So our inner CV joint, which is the tripod joint, allows for in and out, and also it allows us to change the angle and rotate. I hope you can see that on the camera. It's not as complex of a joint as our shepherd joint. Our shepherd joint has 6 ball bearings in there. Every shepherd joint is designed the same way with those 6 bearings. And it allows for left to right, up and down rotation, while still allowing full movement there. But as we flex this joint, you'll notice the bearings move in and out more. So there's more friction, there's more movement. There would be more wear as your CV joint or your CV angle changes there on that outer shepherd joint. So when these joints do fail, it's usually because of binding. So somebody's on an obstacle, they're flexed right out, and then they start bouncing. So torque's going into the joint and it's bouncing and it just blows the joint apart. That is where they will fail you. They will last, hundreds of thousands of miles without abuse. If you're abusing them, if you've lifted, you're gonna shorten the lifespan a bit of these CV axles. Let's actually go into talking about how to diagnose a bad CV axle now. All right, so now you kind of know the internal components of that CV axle, but how do you know if your CV axle is actually failing? Well, if the boot is torn and dirt and water has gotten into those joints, I would just go ahead and replace the whole CV axle. But if the boot is worn and starting to tear, you can actually buy a rebuild kit that will come with new boots, bands, and grease. So that's always an option to save you some money. Apart from the boots, let's talk about the joints. So how do you know if the outer CV joint is going? So for outer CV joint failure, you'll hear a popping noise or a clicking noise. Clicking is very common. You'll want to roll down your front windows to assess this. Turn your wheel all the way to the lock position, so all the way to the left or right, and drive around in a parking lot and listen out each window. You'll either hear clicking on the right or left, which will tell you whether it's the right or left CV joint. If it is really bad or really worn, you may actually feel feedback in your steering wheel as you're turning as well. You may also notice a vibration while accelerating if that CV joint, that outer CV joint or shepherd joint is gone bad. So for the inner CV joint, you will notice a vibration or shuddering under load or during acceleration. You may also hear a clunking sound when putting it into reverse or drive. So you'll be holding your brakes, put it in reverse or drive, and you'll kind of feel or hear a clunking sound. There's just play in that inner CV joint that will kind of click. You may also notice excessive up and down play. So if you get under the vehicle and you push it, you will notice some play in that joint and from side to side. Now, in and out in the differential is normal, and a little bit of up and down is normal, but excessive play is what you're looking for here. So you can compare it to your other joint and just see, if the one that you think is problematic that you've been hearing noise from, if that one's moving a bit more, it's probably wearing out. So you may also notice in that joint, there's a little bit of play. So if the larger part is kind of moving and the actual axle in the center isn't, then you know there's play in there. You could actually get your hand and kind of twist it. You may notice a bit of twisting. You could put a camera under your vehicle and just hold your brakes, put it in drive or reverse. And if you notice a lot of kind of movement in that joint, then you know that that joint is going bad. All right, so I think we've gone through all the components there on the joints. Let's now jump into the CV axle replacement on our 5th gen 4Runner. Let's first jump into all the tools that you'll need to do the job and some supplies. All right, so for tools, we have a breaker bar, we have a 1/2 inch ratchet, we have a 1/2 inch extension with a 19 mil socket for our lugs, we have 1/2 inch metric sockets, we have a 3/8 ratchet, 3/8 sockets, we have an M10 hex socket here. I will leave a link to where you can find this along with this 35 mil socket in the description below. Both of these have really good reviews and are relatively cheap. These are kind of specialty tools. This is going to be for our differential fill plug. This is going to be to get off our axle nut. We have a pair of channel lock pliers. We have a mini sledge, or you could use a regular hammer if you have a really good swing. We have this chisel punch. I'll leave a link to this in the description below as well. This is going to be for getting our CV axle out of our differential. We have a couple flathead screwdrivers and a torque wrench. You're also going to want a drain pan or something to catch the fluid. So the drain pan is to catch some diff fluid that we're going to lose when we change the axle. So you will need about a quart of diff fluid to top up your diff. You could go through the process of draining and refilling the diff. I do have a video of that on the channel, so just a FYI there. If you decide to just top up, you will need another fill washer there. I will leave a link in the description to where you can find this. I'll leave the part number along with the fluid. All right, so if you pick up a new CV axle from Toyota, you will notice one slight difference between the old one and the newest one. The newest one has an indentation here, and that's for a staking nut. So Toyota provides the staking nuts here. I will leave the part number in the description below. But basically this nut is going to screw on, and you're just going to punch in this part here, and it will lock into this groove here on the end of the axle. So I don't know if that's just, an updated safety measure. Instead of using a cotter pin in the cap like the old one uses, they've just switched to that. So just something to note there. All right, so we're going to start off by loosening our front lug nuts with our vehicle on the ground. Then chock your rear tires and then jack up the front of the vehicle. With the vehicle jacked up, you can put your jack stands under the frame to support it and lower that jack. You can now start removing those lug nuts completely and removing your tires. Place your tire under the vehicle just for extra support and safety in case the vehicle comes down, and you can now remove your skid plate. All right, so with the wheel off, we want to knock this cap off. We want to get right into the edge here and just hammer on it and work our way around. It could take a little while, so just be patient. All right, now that we're inside, looks like some moisture got in here. You don't really want that, so I might actually replace this cap. But yeah, let's use some pliers now to flatten out this cotter pin, and then we'll remove it. Great, and now we're gonna remove this nut. So this nut is torqued on here at over 170 foot-pounds of torque. So to break this loose, an impact will work good, or a large breaker bar. The problem is this is gonna wanna turn a little bit as you turn this nut. So you can take a flathead screwdriver and you'll have fins on your rotor. So just stick it in the fins, and then as it rotates, it'll hit the caliper, which is solid metal. So it won't bend this screwdriver or anything, but it'll just stop this from rotating. There we go. All right, so here we have our lower control arm. We have two bolts under here that bolt this lower control arm onto the knuckle. So they're 19mm bolts, and we're just gonna undo both of these. All right, so eventually we're gonna punch this in, we're gonna pull this out, we're gonna get the CV axle out. That means we're gonna pull this whole unit forward. So the knuckle, the hub, rotors, everything's coming forward, the brake caliper. The problem is we could pull on this ABS sensor line. This line is quite weak. A lot of people have pulled these, had to replace them. Huge pain in the butt, gives you a whole bunch of lights in your dash. So there are two little brackets, two little 10mm bolts that hold this in place. There's also a little pop clip, and then there's a plug. So let's undo those right now. All right, so let's start off with where it plugs in here. All right, so just take a flathead screwdriver, and on the outside of the clip, slide it in, and that should release the clip. And then your channel locks on it, and just kind of in a circular motion, pop it out. Just under our sway bar end link, we'll have a bracket right here. So that's a 10mm. Use an extension, 3/8, just loosen it. Right now that's loose. And you'll have another 10mm right here, kind of by the brake line. And that one's on there pretty darn good. It's only supposed to be torqued to 10 foot-pounds or 9 foot-pounds. But man, that one got cranked on there somehow. And then right near your brake line here, just under it, there'll be a little plastic clip. There'll be two little tabs you just push in to release it. So that's it there. It was just pressed in over here. So now this ABS line is free. All right, now we're gonna remove our sway bar end link here. So it's a 17mm. Great. And I'll just put the nut back on to protect the end of the threads and also so I don't lose the nut. All right, now we'll take our mini sledge or big hammer and we're just gonna pound in the center here. Take a small floor jack just to support this. So now I can take this away. We're gonna pull this forward. And just keep an eye on your brake lines here. You don't want to be tugging on these too much. Now what I'll do is I'll actually turn my wheels towards the driver's side, so counterclockwise, and that will actually push out this tie rod. I'm just turning it to the on position, but not starting the engine. And I'm turning the wheels counterclockwise, so towards the driver's side. Now I'm gonna grab it from the back, I'm gonna push it in and try to get this all the way through and out. So by having this up and this well supported, you're not putting too much tension on your brake line here. Now, if you don't want to be too worried about your brake line, just take off the tie rod end where it goes into the knuckle. That way it'll be more free and you can kind of move this just more towards where your brake line is. So we're now ready to knock out that CV joint, the inner joint from the differential. So let's do that now. All right, so I'm gonna slide a drain pan in under where my differential meets my CV joint there, because fluid will drain out here. All right, so I'm gonna put my punch here on this little indentation and whack away. All right, we can see it starting to separate there, so just make sure your drain pan is in position. All right, so it is free now. I can just basically pull it out. All right, so I'm now going to slide in the new shaft. So you'll want to kind of put it in and just make sure you line up these splines. So you might need to rotate it a little bit. Now make sure you keep the end nice and clean because it is going into your differential. If it doesn't go in, it means it's probably not lined up properly, so just rotate it a bit more. There we go, we got it in. Now we want to get this part through our hub here, so we'll pull this forward. This will actually go in and out quite a bit. Perfect, you can see it coming through. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back in the vehicle, we're gonna straighten out that steering wheel, so turning it more towards passenger side so the wheels are straight, and that's gonna allow us to easily bolt in those two 19mm bolts. They're gonna go into that lower control arm bracket into the bottom of the knuckle there, so let's do that now. All right, so I'm gonna thread on that replacement nut that we got with these new axles. And we're not gonna tighten this up all the way. We're just gonna put it on to hold this in place for now. Now, whenever I do a job, I always hate putting this back on because it takes a little while to line these up properly. Can be a bit frustrating. Sometimes you may need to take a jack and kind of push up on the lower control arm just to get this in the right position. All right, so these two bolts, these two 19mm, now we're gonna torque them down to 118 foot-pounds of torque. Now you can put Loctite on these if you like. You can put some blue Loctite. All right, so our sway bar end link, let's put that on the knuckle. So we're gonna torque that down to 52 foot-pounds of torque. And if you need to, you can put an Allen key in here if this starts to spin. Perfect, 52 foot-pounds of torque. All right, so I'm gonna reattach that ABS sensor. As I mentioned before, I'm gonna put some anti-seize on these because I felt like I was gonna snap one of these trying to take it off. And you just torque these little nuts down to 9 foot-pounds of torque. So just very lightly. And then we'll just plug that ABS sensor back in. All right, so we're now ready to start torquing down our axle nut. This is gonna be torqued down to 173 foot-pounds of torque, which is quite a bit. We don't want this moving. So let's slide our screwdriver in there. We use our 35 on our torque wrench. All right, 173 foot-pounds of torque. All right, so we're now gonna take this staking nut, we're gonna bash in this edge here so that it goes into this groove. So we'll use our punch that we used to remove the CV axle, and we'll do that now. Perfect. All right, so we can now start tapping that dust cap back into position, use a rubber mallet and a flathead screwdriver, then take that hex socket and loosen up the fill on your diff. That is right where the axle goes in on the driver's side. Make sure you remove the gasket, the fill plug gasket, then fill it up with diff fluid, push it in all the way until it starts to pour out. Once it starts to pour out, you can replace the cap with a new fill plug gasket. So torque that down now to 29 foot-pounds of torque, and then your fluid is set and you're good to go. Now we can put the wheel back on, torque that down to spec, then put our skid plate on, and we are done. All right, guys, so as you can see, replacing the CV axles on the 5th generation 4Runner Tacoma FJ Cruiser is not that difficult at all. As long as you have the right tools and some good quality axles, go with the OEM. As you can see, the OEM were much better quality than the aftermarket cheap axles off Rock Auto. So I definitely go with them. With the right tools, this job is not that hard. I hope this video was informative. I hope you guys found this video useful. If you did, please like and subscribe. I hope to come up with a ton of videos. And I do really always appreciate your guys' support. So I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye now.